You're watching Any Given Thursday live here on Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Sr. If you're watching right now and you're like, wait, where's Harrison Graham? It's always the Chase and Harry show every single Thursday here on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. We have NFL news breaking all over the place, but it's not stopping us from still going live on time. Yeah, we're dropping rhymes and yeah, we're dimes here at Chat Sports because we're simply built different. A loaded show coming your way. Harrison will join me in just a little while. I had some 49ers breaking news to get to as Trent Williams has returned to the practice field. Then moments later, Harrison had some breaking Chiefs news to get to. And when it's the NFL playoffs, you have to pass along that information to all of our loyal subscribers on all of our YouTube channels here at Chat Sports. Before we dive into the latest NBA news and rumors heading into February 10th NBA trade deadline, the rundown is down below. That is what you can expect. Let's let the audience pile in. Let's bring the homies in. Let's give some shout outs and let's get that audience interaction going. Shout out your city and let me know where you're watching from. We are coming to you live from the Chat Sports studios in Dallas, Texas. At some point, Harrison is going to join me. Until then, it's the Chase Sr. and producer Jeremy Chugg show. So shout out your city. Let us know where you're watching from. We are live here in Dallas, Texas. It really is a crazy time on the sporting calendar because major sports events are going down in the lead up, especially to the NFL playoffs on Saturday and Sunday. Big games, huge slate. We have you covered right here on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. Desmond M. watching from Philadelphia. What up, my guy? I'm a Philly Bull. Grew up in Westchester. Went to Temple. Absolutely love to see it. L2_Clouds also in the chat. He's saying Bulls versus Nets. That game last night, was that indicative of how good and how lethal the Brooklyn Nets can be with how dominant they were with Kyrie Irving, who is able to play road games right now? I watched that game and I was like, man, these look like two different teams right now. And we're talking about a Chicago Bulls team that has been very good this year, but last night it was all Brooklyn. Timberwolf Taylor in Detroit, John Blackman, Timbuktu, San Antonio, Texas from Juan, Portland Made. Yo, Portland Made, what it do? We know where you're from. Now, if you're wondering what's coming up on today's show, hitting you with the latest NBA trade rumors, Ben Simmons trade rumors. We're going to talk some Lakers, Warriors, Mavericks, Sixers, Celtics, everything you can think of that's popping off in the NBA universe, we have you covered on today's show. NOLA Pelicans fan, wonder where? Yeah, New Orleans. San Antonio, Texas in the chat. So too is Philadelphia, Detroit, Nepal, as we have people watching internationally. Hey, we have 276,000 subscribers. No surprise there. So glad to see people tuned in from all across the globe. Next up, favorite NBA team. Let me know your favorite squad right now and get that comment section going. Aaron Smith from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, right down the road from my hometown of Westchester. Shout out the 610 and the 484 as well as the 215. Juan, you think Ben will be a Spur? I wish Daryl Morey would have pulled the trigger earlier on this year or maybe during the offseason for DeJounte Murray. But now that DeJounte Murray is a borderline all-star, I don't think the Spurs are going to give him up for Ben Simmons. Celtics from John. NOLA Pelicans fan, going with the Pels. I'm sorry. Bulls coming from L2Clouds. Rod Love 313, Detroit. Bailey Gordon, Mavericks. We're going to be talking Mavericks here in just a few moments. Ray Castro, Los Angeles Lakers. Favorite squads, list them for me. I'm a Philly guy, so I got to root on my Philadelphia 76ers. Marquise Robertson, a loyal viewer of us here at Chat Sports and our bevy of channels, going with the Los Angeles Lakers. Who else you got? Let me know in the comment section and get that thing popping. Name a player that should be traded. My next question for you on today's docket. A lot of good NBA trade candidates. And as we get closer and closer to the NBA trade deadline, there are more names that are going to surface, and there are some names that are going to drop off the table. But we know every NBA trade deadline, whether there's a significant deal or more minor or medium-level deals, there are always deals going down at the NBA trade deadline. That's why you subscribe to Chat Sports, because myself, Harrison Graham, we will be live on the day of the NBA trade deadline for several hours, and you know that we ain't scared to pop some drinks. Producer Jeremy Chuggs, let me welcome you in. What it do, my guy?
So I'm looking at the chat. Nola Pelicans fan says Bol. Some news today, actually, Bol failed his physical, so that trade was denied.
Yeah, not getting sent any longer from the Denver Nuggets to the Detroit Pistons. Bol failed his physical, so he can't at least get traded, or that trade didn't come through. We'll see what happens on that front. John Blackman, Miles Turner, that's a good one. We've talked about him on a couple of our NBA channels. Rashard Lee, James Harden, you probably mean James Harden. I don't think he's going to get traded, especially with how the Nets played last night against the Chicago Bulls. Aaron Smith, Ben, get this guy out the city. I agree. Big Baby Ben, as we like to call him here at Chat Sports. Get that fraud out of here. Ben, get this man out the city. I like that. Jeremy Grant, Rod Love, 313. Good stuff right there. Who else do you think is going to get traded? We'll give you some shout-outs here on the show. Who else gets dealt? NBA trade deadline less than 1 month away on February 10th. One more name, Russell Westbrook, coming in from Ray Castro. Okay, my man, too busy SFA and NFL videos, himself, myself, going to welcome in my cohort, my partner, my right-hand man, my homie, Harrison Graham. The level of efficiency in which we just displayed in the last half hour is pretty impressive.
It's an SFA Thursday here at Chat Sports. And, during the playoffs, you got to be ready to go. So, little Chiefs injury report dropped. And for you Chiefs fans, if there are any, that'll go up on the channel here in about 10, 15 minutes. Got the squad behind the scenes working on that, getting that out for you guys. So, it's what we do, man. Got to be ready for anything in this gig. So,
also what we do, we welcome in the audience and we give shout-outs to all of the people. Who's the too early NBA MVP right now? A couple of really good candidates, and I had posted this poll question. You can get your votes in, 48 votes so far. Steph Curry, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, the Joker, if other comment. 56% of the people going with Steph, HG.
A couple.
It's been cold of late, too.
Yeah, he's been a little cold. A couple reasons he could be leading the vote. We know we got a lot of Warriors fans here at Chat Sports. And then also, I don't know if it's being well reported how good DeMar's been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people think DeMar DeRozan, like, oh, good player, but like this year he is easily a top 5, if not top 3 NBA MVP candidate right now, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I think
John Morant has to be in that conversation.
John
Morant.
Morant.
I mean, DeMar DeRozan is averaging 26 points per game, more than 5 rebounds, and almost 5 dimes.
Jeremy's laughing at something.
You all right, Chugs?
John Blackman in the chat. You guys with the loud, distracted clothing.
These are neutral colors.
I know. That's the joke.
The sarcasm.
The sarcasm. Okay, I didn't get it. Okay.
Grab the green gray tee out of the.
Yeah.
Hey man, the beauty of gray, you can wear it for any show we're doing here.
Yeah.
It's very very universal.
See,
but
we do a lot of things here at Chat Sports.
Yeah, we're jumping from Studio C to Studio B to Studio A to Studio SFA. I mean, you gotta be ready. You know why? Because that confetti's gonna be popping. That's why. Who's the best team in the NBA right now? Is it?
I think it's Brooklyn after last night. I know it's only one game, but Kyrie back for road games at least. They're gonna change that rule once they get to the playoffs.
He didn't do much last night, right?
No, but it's just another weapon.
Someone you have to worry about.
And Kevin Durant's an MVP candidate, and Harden, after a sluggish start,
he's
has
playing
been very
well.
good. Yeah,
he's playing good. Yeah, I still think come playoff time, especially if Kyrie becomes a full participant, that they're going to be the team to beat. I think Chicago should be taken seriously now, though. I know they've lost their last 2 kind of in dominant fashion, but I think there's a big enough track record this season that they're a team to be reckoned with. And then obviously you got Golden State and Phoenix in the West. It feels like the top 2 in each conference right now, Chase. Golden State, Phoenix, Chicago, and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And then after that,
everybody else.
After that, that next tier, I would go Utah, Memphis, who's won 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
And then, is there another East team in that next tier?
I want to see what Miami is when they're healthy.
You got to give Milwaukee love because they are the defending champs. They have Giannis.
Yeah.
So,
but after that grouping in the East, it really is like everybody else after that.
Yeah, Philadelphia's playing well, but I think Philadelphia's a wild card team. If they move Simmons and get a legit piece, then that could change their ceiling, if you will.
Yes.
So that's kind of it, though. Coming into the year, we were thinking, maybe 10 teams could have won a title. I think right now it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Y'all out on the Bucks?
I'm not out. I just think
they haven't been at full strength either.
Yeah,
though. That's the thing. With
I
the
just
Bucks.
think Brooklyn at full strength is a better team, and honestly, Chicago is deeper too.
Yeah,
like Caruso hasn't played in a month, and he's had a great impact when he's been playing for Chicago. So they just got a lot of good players right now. There's no doubt about it. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in, and a bit of a choppy start. Chase rocking with us.
It wasn't choppy at all.
Yeah,
seamless.
Not seamless.
Considering the circumstances.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, it's just, it's one of those things. If you're ready for the show to start, like the video. We've just been chopping it up with you guys, and then we'll jump on in here. Got a lot of Ben Simmons stuff to get to. Could he be heading out west? A couple of teams could be interested, or maybe he's interested in a couple of teams. We'll see what happens on that front, so stay tuned for that. Like the video. Here's what's coming up on the show. Trade rumors around the NBA. Plus, we'll talk about the latest rumors around several teams. Ben Simmons and the Sixers. Could he want to go to Golden State or Dallas? We'll kind of figure that all out. The latest on the Lakers as well as the Boston Celtics. And then, hey, we're going to wrap things up. It wouldn't be an episode of Any Given Thursday without some college football. The season is over, which is a bummer. But, Chase, it's never, we just keep it here. We brought it back. Now we're keeping it here. That's how things roll here. So our way too early top 25 rankings heading into 2022 should be interesting there as well. Stay tuned for all of that and more. We'll kick things off with the latest NBA trade rumors. He's Chase Sr. I'm Harrison Graham. Any Given Thursday by Chat Sports. NBA trade deadline less than a month away, Chase. And before we get into some of the trade rumors, the buzz, I think this Damian Lillard injury, as he's set to have abdominal surgery, could impact the trade market because he likely is not going to go anywhere.
And it impacts the trade market for a couple of reasons. Obviously, this takes Damian Lillard out of the equation for an NBA trade. There's belief that he could be out for the rest of the regular season, but there's also this. Are they going to trade away CJ McCollum now and some of the other pieces on that roster? There's also draft compensation that has to come into play if the Trailblazers slot at the end of the year in a certain position in the NBA, their pick improves, obviously. So all these things coming into play. And actually, Damian Lillard did have surgery already in Philadelphia. They had to work really quickly. Right now, likely to be out 6 to 8 weeks. That's the expectation right now. But according to reports, because of the severity of that injury, the complexity of it, it could be season ending. As for when it happened, back during the Olympic Games, and it's kind of lingered all throughout the year.
Well, it makes you wonder a couple of things. One, is this why he's been playing poorly this year? And two, it says 6 to 8 weeks, but could be season ending. I think this is one of those, if they're out of the hunt, which they kind of already are, you just don't bring them back.
No.
And here's the problem for Portland, Chase. This couldn't happen at a worse time because there's already major question marks about your future. Your one chance of kind of silencing the noise was going on a run and making the playoffs. Well, that's pretty unlikely without Damian Lillard now. So now you face these questions all over again after this season. Like, do you keep Dame? CJ? Do you trade him in the next month? So not exactly ideal for the Portland Trailblazers and first-year head coach Chauncey Billups.
No. So should Dame sit the rest of the year? That's the question that we're asking all of our loyal subscribers and viewers. Get into the comment section right now. Let us know. Err on the side of caution. Be aggressive with Dame. Kind of depends on where the Blazers are at in the playoff race. But right now, one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. Type S for sit. Type P for play. Get those votes in. And Harrison, let's talk some Ben Simmons now.
Yeah, let's get to the latest around the embattled star, if you will, for Philadelphia. Lots of crazy rumors out there, and we'll certainly explore further here live on AGT. But let's just kind of talk the latest here. They did meet Rich Paul and Daryl Morey. I think I read, Chase, at Downtown Restaurant in Philadelphia.
Yes,
Not sure if that place was named. I don't know if you did some digging to figure out which.
Did not find out the location. That was probably by design because a lot of Philly fans would just demand to Daryl Morey that a trade be made and that Rich Paul is kind of fraud.
There might be some rioters outside if they had found out. But anyway, they met, and basically, while the meeting was cordial, nothing's really changed on either party's front. Daryl Morey says, we ain't trading him unless we get a star in return.
Yeah, the market for him, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, multiple other NBA reports, remains static. There's really no movement on that front because Daryl Morey's asking price remains high for arguably the best defender in the NBA, a guy who has really special passing vision as well as size and has made it to 3 All-Star games. Now, The Sixers have discussed, according to Bleacher Report, some 3-team packages with the Sacramento Kings, Indiana Pacers, Minnesota Timberwolves. And look, I'm not sure what level of player the Sixers are going to get back, Harrison, for Ben Simmons. I think it can be about a fringe all-star, maybe a lower-level all-star. But you kind of take a look at this perspective between both sides, and you see where Daryl Morey is coming from, and you see the other side of the argument as well. Daryl Morey, from his side, wants an all-star back for an all-star. Understandable. Unfortunately for Simmons, his value is tanked, even from this past offseason, even after that playoff series. It's just not what it once was.
Yeah.
Probably prior to the year, you could have traded him away for a DeJounte Murray type. I don't think you're getting that level of player back for Ben Simmons. And also for Daryl Morey, he's looking at a guy who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, still has value. He's 25 years old and is under contract. But on the other side, fans, especially me, growing up outside of Philadelphia, want to see a trade happen because the Sixers are a solid team right now. But they're kind of capped as far as their playoff ability and expectations, because I think Embiid needs a co-star. Now, he's been averaging 30-plus points per game over the last couple of weeks. He's been balling out. The roster around him isn't good enough.
I was going to say, I want to mention this because, 3 weeks ago, I would understand Morey's side even more. It's like, okay, don't settle. But now that you have Embiid playing like he was last year, where he was probably the MVP before the late injury, it's like, well, do you want to waste another year? Because let's be honest, if you don't move Simmons, you ain't making a deep run. No. Maybe you'll win one playoff series, but that's probably your ceiling in the Eastern Conference. But if Embiid is going to be this 28, 29, and 12 guy and stay healthy, which, by the way, that knee looks healthy. I think actually getting COVID helped him rest up a little more in terms of his body. I'm trying to move Simmons, man, as much as I have been in these last 6 months if I'm Daryl Morey, and maybe one of these teams that Shams Charania mentioned that have been interested in Simmons will step up. I do wonder if this is going to be one of those last-second trade deadline deals where both sides are like, all right, let's just get this done. We want to try and win this year, and having this guy just hang over us, it's just a cloud over the franchise.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is that I was reading this report from Bleacher Report that said not just Daryl Morey, but also Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid are trying to hold out hope that the Sixers are going to be able to get an all-star level player back for Ben Simmons to team up with Joel Embiid. So Embiid, who's been very loyal to Philadelphia, he's made it known that he wants to finish his career there, maybe wants to hold out until he can get a legitimate co-star, unlike what Ben Simmons was. And these are the players on the Sixers' wish list. Now, it's interesting that this past offseason, James Harden didn't elect to sign that contract extension with the Brooklyn Nets. Some rumors bubbling now that the Sixers could elect to go after Harden during the offseason as compared to the NBA trade deadline. Maybe they'll go after Bradley Beal, but I don't think the Wizards are going to move him. He hasn't really asked out yet. And I think the Celtics would be absolutely crazy to trade away Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons. But JB alongside Embiid, that'd be a really good 1-2 punch.
Here's what Woj had to say on that meeting between the Sixers and Rich Paul. The meeting at a downtown Philadelphia restaurant was described as amicable and professional, but Morey reiterated the franchise's stance that it won't make a Simmons trade unless it believes the return gives it a chance to compete for a championship. Paul told the Sixers that Simmons' mental health hurdles continue to preclude him from a return to play with the team, and the desire for a trade out of Philadelphia remains in place. Sources said this is a classic stalemate, Chase. Yeah. Neither side wants to give an inch, right? And look, you don't have to yet. But as we get closer to February 10th, and I know Daryl Morey, what he threw out that quote a few months ago, this could take 4 years because that's how much time he has left on his contract. I refuse to believe that. You've got Joel Embiid in his prime. You can't drag this out multiple years. At the latest, it's this upcoming offseason.
Yeah.
But I want to get it done now if I'm Philadelphia. I want to get him out of here and try to make a push this year. You may not be able to win a title this year, but at least you have some clarity heading into next offseason.
It's kind of like an old school country western battle and a stare down where Daryl Morey and Rich Paul both have their hands on the trigger and they're waiting for somebody to flinch first so that they can fire first.
But each side only has one bullet in the chamber. Exactly. And you know if you miss,
do or die,
then it's not a good situation.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to this. I mean, Daryl Morey has to pivot from what was originally a very high asking price and still is, and he has to be realistic.
Yeah.
He's all about winning. He has one of the top 5 most dominant players in the NBA right now, and Joel Embiid. be willing to pivot and don't waste his prime years. I think you have to lower that asking price and go after a De'Aaron Fox, go after a Malcolm Brogdon, and understand that Simmons' value is just diminished right now.
And maybe you don't get a star, but maybe you get two good players or something like that. Maybe it ends up being
Fox and Buddy Hield.
Maybe it's a depth play. Who knows? Will Ben Simmons get dealt by the deadline? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Cast those votes in the comment section. And folks, we got some sweet NBA jerseys available for you guys. Some of these on sale as well. Go check them out. Chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. We'll be sure to get that link down in the comments and in the description. It's chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. Not just the ones we're showing you guys as well. You guys can browse that link. There's a ton of different ones available at your disposal. Go check it out. One more time, the link is chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. It is chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. Very easy to remember, but if you forget, click and shop. That link will be in the comments and in the description. All right, we'll keep it moving. Let's talk about Jeremy Grant, Chase, who has kind of been linked to trade rumors since he signed with Detroit because they're obviously not in win-now mode. Lakers, Knicks, Wizards, and Portland appeared to be in on him. You wonder if that's still the case with the Blazers, considering that the latest with Damian Lillard.
Yeah, and look, all of these teams, as evidenced by the graphic, have some really marquee players. All of them are in a position to win right now or try to compete with some headline players like LeBron, Julius Randle, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. But also, you take a look at the records down below, and all of them are in a similar spot. They're either underachieving or disappointing up to this point, and they need roster upgrades if they do want to make a run at the NBA playoffs. You take a look at Jeremy Grant and what he's able to do in his first 6 seasons as compared to the last couple. It's really been a wonderful story of player development, Harrison. I mean, if you remember coming out of Syracuse, he was such a raw prospect who was really just looked at as a good athlete and a very high leaper, 9 points per game his first 6 years. But with Detroit the last 2 years, he's currently out with a thumb injury. 21.5 points per game, very good two-way player. And I don't know how much he moves the needle for a title contender. He is a very good, well-rounded player, though, on both ends of the floor.
This is the classic, when he entered the NBA, he was an excellent athlete that was an okay player. Now he's a great player that's also a good athlete. Like, you know, Aaron Gordon's a good example of that, where this raw athleticism, and then over time he becomes a pretty good player. Jeremy Grant certainly fits that bill. He's become a good shooter. He can handle a little bit now. We know how good of a defensive player he is. I mean, he's the prototypical 3-and-D guy. He can play the 2, 3, or 4 depending on certain matchups. He can guard multiple positions, stretch 4 if you want to put him there. I think he would be an excellent addition. And honestly, if you're Detroit, if you can get a first-round pick and maybe another pick as well, probably something worth considering you're probably at least 2-3 years away from contending.
Yeah, great Jeremy Grant as a player. As I mentioned, currently out right now with that thumb injury, but he's not going to be out for a long period of time. Actually, he's probably at this point closing in on a return to the floor for a stretch run for any team that does decide to trade for them. If they decide to do A, B, C, D, or F, you let us know. And Harrison, NBA trade deadline less than a month away. How are people not subscribed to the channel? I mean, you got to. Hit that red subscribe button, baby.
I mean, this is it. A lot of our coverage has been NFL-based recently, but Chase and I are ramping up our NBA coverage over the next several weeks as the trade deadline closes in. And, of course, we'll be live on trade deadline day. You can book that. Subscribe, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Do not miss any of it. And by the way, we're like, 24,000 subs away from 300,000?
Yeah.
That is an exclusive club on YouTube, and you guys can be a part of it. All you got to do is hit that sub button. All right, how about this trade idea? We briefly talked about this on our Warriors channel. Thought we'd bring it over here as well. DraftKings trade rumors. I love it.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal to the Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, which is misspelled. Don't worry about it. Jonathan Kuminga, Jordan Poole, and 3 first-round picks. DraftKings in the trade rumors game? I love it.
I guess, yeah. Publishing articles leading up to the NBA trade deadline. That's
Evan
what
Massey over there now.
Bradley Beal to the Warriors. And then the Wizards, I honestly think, would get like a pretty decent package if this trade ever went down. For Golden State, I don't think it's going to happen, nor do I think it makes sense. They have the best record in the NBA. They've been playing very well. Their offense over the last couple of weeks has sputtered a little bit in addition to Steph Curry's shooting numbers. But imagine just having Bradley Beal, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green James Wiseman coming back any given night. And for the Wizards, like if Beal doesn't want to be in the nation's capital anymore, you get some nice pieces. I really like the future of Kuminga. I think he can be a Jaylen Brown type if his development continues. You get 3 first-round picks with some protections on there. Jordan Poole can go on a heater, has a flamethrower. And then Andrew Wiggins is having a borderline all-star year.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like the classic as we look at Bradley Beal's past 2 seasons, which this year he has not been as good. Still having a good year overall. This feels like the classic, if it was 2K, I would do it. But do you actually get better if you're Golden State? You get worse defensively.
I don't think there's depth.
You lose your depth and you get worse defensively. And honestly, like, Wiggins, he's going to give you 5-6 less points per game, but he's shooting a better percentage, especially from 3. That's the thing about Bradley Beal in recent years. He's not a great 3-point shooter anymore. I mean, this year he's below 30%, and I think within that offense, you like free-flowing ball movement. Beal's kind of an ISO guy at this point. I actually don't think for Golden State this makes that much sense, if I'm being completely honest.
No, I don't think so either, and the Wizards were one of the surprise teams earlier on this year.
Yeah.
Them and kind of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and both teams have cooled off just a bit. Now, for the future, for right now, I probably like the Cavaliers roster a little bit better.
Definitely
Darius Garland's balling out. Evan Mobley has just a boatload of potential.
Jarrett Allen's had a great season.
Jarrett Allen's been fantastic. You saw that deal that he signed this past offseason, $100 million, and you're like, I'm not sure about that.
So far, it's looking good. Yeah.
There's no question about that. So Wizards have cooled down, interested to see if they're buyers or sellers at the NBA trade deadline. Obviously, massive sellers if they get rid of Beal.
Is this the year for Beal to get traded? Let us know where he ends this season with. Type WIZ for the Wizards. Type O for other as in another team. Cast your votes in the comments. Get some shout-outs here. A little audience spike. Appreciate you guys tuning in here to Any Given Thursday by Chat Sports. Chase and I come live every single Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central Time. Jeremy, our producer, just cracked a stupid joke, but that's okay. He's here for comic relief. Kareem says other. L2 says whiz. I've gotten to the point with Bradley Beal, Chase, until I see evidence of otherwise, he's not going to get traded because he has not demanded a trade, and he seems to like it there for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Now, a couple weeks ago, he did say, not going to sign a long-term deal with the Wizards. I don't want to tie myself down to Washington. So maybe his thinking is changing just a bit, but we'll see in the next couple of weeks.
Does he have a no trade clause, by the way?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, the thing about Bradley Beal, he had his prime with Washington. Great offensive player. Let me tell you something. He's slowing down a little bit.
The real ones know. If you whisper, the real ones know. I appreciate you guys. The Black Line says whiz. Gia Dang says other. We'll see what happens.
Kareem, what it do, brother?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for rocking and rolling with us. Over 115 live. You guys are the best. Subscribe if you haven't. All right. Chase, we got to dig even deeper into Ben Simmons. There's some wild rumors that are circulating, even global rumors that are circulating out there. So let's expand on that. Couple of teams and potentially involved in a Ben Simmons trade. We'll explore that next here on Any Given Thursday. He's Chase Sr. I'm Harrison Graham. Any Given Thursday, roll it along with you. Check us out every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central on our main Chat Sports channel. Let's get into the latest around Ben Simmons and 3 teams potentially involved in the mix here. Obviously, you have Philadelphia, who is still stuck with him, but Dallas, Golden State, Chase, what's going on here? What's going on with these rumors?
Yeah, so here's what we have coming up, and really this is a heater of a show. Simmons, according to reports, and we'll get to that report here in just a second, prefers a destination of either the Golden State Warriors or the Dallas Mavericks. Very, very interesting. There was also a meeting in downtown Philadelphia between Daryl Morey, the Sixers front office and ownership, and Rich Paul and Klutch Sports to try to talk this out to move closer to an NBA trade of Ben Simmons. And we'll also explain some trade ideas for each team involved, the Dallas Mavericks and the Warriors, coming up in just a few moments.
So here was the report, rumor, hard to say, Mo Mootsie of Sky Sports, which I believe is it in Canada?
International. No,
Europe?
It's England,
okay.
London.
Per a source in the Simmons camp, which Simmons is Australian, so there's probably some international reporters that have some access. His preferred team in the West is Dallas and Golden State. He realizes Golden State is highly unlikely and thinks Philly's asking price is too steep. fears the 76ers may not trade him at all, which obviously up to this point has been true.
You know it's international when it's realized with an S, not a Z.
Yes, that's a good call.
That's the indication.
That's a good call,
Yeah.
yes. Here's Woj as well, because the 76ers and Simmons reps, led by Rich Paul, met recently. Meeting in downtown Philadelphia was described as amicable and professional, but Morey reiterated the franchise's stance that it won't make a Simmons trade unless it believes the return gives it a chance to compete for a championship, sources said. Paul told the Sixers that Simmons' mental health hurdles continue to preclude him from a return to play with the team, and the desire for a trade out of Philadelphia remains in place. So you've got a lot going on here, Chase. You've got the stalemate between Ben Simmons and the Sixers, and now you've got rumors really from all kinds of websites and sources, and it's kind of hard to really figure out what's true.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, with 25 days or so to go before the trade deadline, things are heating up around Ben Simmons.
You know what's funny too, and we're all sensitive to mental health issues, and I'm glad it's become more of a talking point here in America and internationally, because it is a serious problem for millions and millions of people out there. And Ben Simmons has kind of blamed mental health issues for why he hasn't suited up for Philadelphia. But then, conversely, on the other side of that, his reps in Klutch Sports have been telling teams that if you trade for Ben Simmons, all he needs is a little bit of conditioning to get back into game shape, and he'll be ready to go. So are we just going to automatically throw out those mental health issues that he was alluding to and talking about for why he couldn't play for Philadelphia? Here's the borderline truth, and if nobody wants to keep it a buck, I will. He's not dealing with any mental health issues. Ben Simmons is a little bit soft mentally. He is done with Philadelphia, and that's fine. It's become a contentious relationship over time, but he's never taken accountability for all of his flaws, all of his weaknesses. And finally, it all came to a boiling point in the playoffs last year, and everybody became tired of it. Part of that frustration from the Philadelphia fan base is that they see Ben Simmons having so much potential. He has greatness within him. He's an excellent defender. In my argument, the best in the league. But he's never worked on his offensive game. And he doesn't want to. He's never shown a willingness to do that, and now he's blaming everybody else for his problems?
Let me add this as well, the mental health issue thing, because I tend to agree with you. It just doesn't add up. And here's the thing that frustrates me about these type of issues is if you use mental health as an excuse, you're almost worse than the people who don't even think mental health is real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're finally getting to a place where we're addressing this as a real problem.
Exactly.
But then you have people who just use it as a crutch when it's not actually true within
Especially
that person, and that's problematic.
It's in the fine tuning and fine writing of contractual stuff in his contract and with the NBA Players Association. So it's smart for Simmons and Rich Paul on their side
just
to
kind of
use
shady,
it,
man.
But it's kind of shady at the same time.
So what's the best fit? Just staying in Philadelphia. I think if he could get over all this stuff, it could still be a good fit. Type PHI. Golden State, I think he'd fit in well there, to be honest. I just don't know how they pull that trade off. We'll have a trade idea coming up. Type DAL for the Dallas Mavericks. Get your votes in. Which team makes the most sense for Ben Simmons? So, obviously, look, you and I have bashed this guy for a long time now, but there are a lot of pros to Ben Simmons' game.
Yes. No, there are. And look, everybody wants to damage his trade value, and of course, it's not what it was even this point last year when he almost got traded for James Harden. You're not going to get close to getting a player like that in return. But we're talking about a special player who has pedigree, number one in the NBA draft back in 2016, first-team All-Defender. I thought he should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. Phenomenal athlete at 6'11", 240 pounds, and with that size, has special Magic Johnson-like court vision. Again, because of his size, I'm not comparing the players.
Yep.
He creates shots for his teammates, so while he doesn't shoot himself, he creates opportunities for others. He excels in the open floor. But on the other side of this as well, there's the bad with Ben Simmons. He's a liability in the half court, as we've seen in the playoffs time and time again. He's never taken onus in improving his offensive game. Last year in the playoffs, he shot 34% from the charity stripe. And of course, we all know what happened when he passed up on that dunk in Game 7 in the second round against the Hawks. And his fit with Embiid doesn't work. And he has more than $100 million remaining on his contract. For other teams out there, they're not sure the personality that they're getting back, the player that they're getting back. And while it's a good thing in some instances that he's under contract, given the money and the player who he is and the playoff shortcomings, it's kind of sketchy to a certain degree. And $33 million this year, 35 next, almost 38. Then it goes up to 40 the final year of that contract. Then he becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2025 at the age of 29, still young. That's a lot of money to be paying for a guy who you don't know if he's a damaged asset or not.
Yeah, you don't know where he's at mentally in terms of confidence, if you will, like separate from mental health stuff. Like, does he believe in his own game at this point? Is he a guy that can gel with other superstar talents? Obviously, him and Joel Embiid at this point, that relationship is lost. Is he going to work on his offensive game at some point? Because I don't know if I want that contract, even if he locks back in, if he can't be a threat to shoot from the outside. And that's what makes all this so tricky, both for the 76ers and for Simmons himself, as he looks, wants a new home at this point.
Yeah, and look, I don't know what Daryl Morey is going to do. I really don't know what he's going to do. I mean, if his price tag is going to remain so high going into the NBA trade deadline, how is Simmons' value going to increase after the year? I don't see how it can if he doesn't play basketball and display any type of improvement on the offensive end of the floor.
So here's what we're going to do. Before we get to a trade idea, both from Golden State and Dallas, subscribe to our channels depending on what team you are a fan of. Main Chat Sports channel if you just love the NBA, the NFL. The link's down below, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Closing in on 300,000 subscribers. Shout out to Laker Nation. We crossed 40,000 subs recently. Let's keep that train moving, youtube.com/LakersTV. Golden State Warriors today has been humming for months now, across 25K. Let's keep it moving there, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. We got our Dallas Mavericks channel crossing 15,000 subs, starting to slowly ramp up our coverage over there. Again, if you're watching this on our Mavs channel, hit that sub button. And then some of our smaller channels, especially Knicks and Sixers, have been growing pretty quickly. Celtics, though, all closing in on 8,000 subs, youtube.com/CelticsTV. Knicks channel, Knicks Now, closing in on 4,000. youtube.com/KnicksTV, and then 76ers now, almost at 3,500 subs. Chase and I, especially Chase, been grinding on our NBA channels. Support the company as a whole, Chat Sports. Subscribe across the board, and whatever fan you are or whatever team you are a fan of, go check us out.
Use it as competition, too.
Yeah,
if you're a Knicks fan or a Sixers fan or a Celtics fan, you're going back and forth. Lakers and Warriors is a great rivalry as well.
Yeah, keep it moving. Gotta love it. All right, let's get into these trade ideas. So we'll get to Dallas in a minute. Golden State first. So Ben Simmons to the Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody. Chase?
Now, the NFL is different than the NBA. In the NFL, you don't have to match salaries. You just have to have room in your salary cap in order to absorb a contract. The NBA is totally different. You have to match the money. So we put all of these trades into the trade machine, and financially they work. Now, for the Golden State Warriors, I wouldn't do this deal. I'd keep this roster intact. They're the best team in the NBA, in my opinion. That's with Klay Thompson recently coming back and James Wiseman on the way. Andrew Wiggins is a borderline all-star. Jordan Poole, who did start games earlier in the year, not included in this deal, but you kind of have this young nucleus of a guy like Wiggins and Poole and Kuminga and Moody. These are all very good pieces for Golden State. Now, for Philadelphia, I'd think about making this trade. Philadelphia, at the time when Wiggins was coming out of Kansas, they were vying for him to come to Philly, and they really wanted him. Now, he's not lived up to those expectations, but he's a borderline all-star this year. And I think Jonathan Kuminga has Jaylen Brown types of potential. And Moses Moody, very good young player as well who can shoot the hell out of the rock.
And Wiggins and Embiid obviously played together.
Exactly right.
They're tight by all accounts, so you've got that built-in relationship as well. For Dallas, this is the trade idea we cooked up. Ben Simmons and Jaden Springer as a salary, kind of roster filler there. Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Brunson, and Willie Cauley-Stein. I'd kind of thrown this one at you because Dallas, number one, Philadelphia doesn't want Porzingis. Him next to Embiid makes no sense. But Jalen Brunson, Northeast guy, Pennsylvania guy. I think he would be beloved in Philadelphia. You're talking about a guy who has gotten better and better every year. Now you'd have to pay him. He's going to be a free agent, so you got to be prepared to sign him if you make this trade. Tim Hardaway, not playing as well this year, but he's a guy that can go for 30 on any given night. He's going to average 15 to 20 points. And then, Cauley-Stein kind of just a salary throw-in. He's actually been out for a while with personal reasons. This is an interesting one. You're not getting that star if you're Philadelphia, but you're getting two legitimate starting caliber players.
Yeah, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is a really good shooter. You get to bring Jalen Brunson back to the Philadelphia area where he starred, won 2 titles at Villanova under Jay Wright, and won College Basketball Player of the Year. Villanova is not in Philadelphia, by the way, if you're trying to search for that argument. Yeah, I got you covered on that. But Tim Hardaway, he can be a flamethrower any given night. I mean, you know that living here in Dallas.
Yep.
So I think that's a decent deal for Philadelphia, but with Daryl Morey's asking price, doesn't meet his demands, that's for sure.
No, I mean, he would have to lower his expectations, that's for sure. All right, so we'll end it on this. Is Ben Simmons an elite player? Type E for elite, type O for overrated. We haven't seen him play in a while, so I would probably lean overrated, but that does not mean he's not good. Get your votes in down in the comments. All right. That was fun. Horrible trade from Smokey Joe. For which team?
Yeah, which trade?
Let me know. Or which trade? I'm still mad at that Hawks trade. Yeah, so if you guys missed it, did y'all talk about this in the build-up, the Hawks trade?
Oh,
Knicks,
the Cam
Hawks?
Reddish one?
Yeah,
no.
so Cam Reddish to the Knicks for a first-round pick and Kevin Knox. I like that move for the Knicks. You know, even if a first-round pick is giving up a decent amount, the Knicks have extra draft capital from the Porzingis trade. So I actually like that trade. John says overrated. L2 Cloud overrated. He is reaching there from Kareem. Who's he? Type. Nate says L for loser. I don't know what else that means. Let's see here. Overrated from Smokey J. We got...
It's in Pennsylvania. It's not in Philadelphia. I said that correctly, right? If I didn't, that's a bad butcher on my part. Yeah. It's a regional joke. Those who know, know.
So what's the joke there?
So, okay, Villanova is in the Big Five, which is all of the Philadelphia basketball universities.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of classifies Villanova as a Philadelphia school, which it kind of is. But it's not technically in city limits. It's on the main line, not in Philadelphia city
So what
limits.
city is it in? Is Villanova a city?
It's in the area. It's in the main line.
It's not called the main line?
That's the area.
Like if you live in there, your address would be main line, comma,
no,
PA?
That's like the technical, it's called the main line. It's basically like,
if you live there and I write you a letter, PD style,
here, I got you.
What's the address look like? That's what I see, PD?
It's in Montgomery County. It's
that still doesn't answer. Is that
so
the
it's not
city?
in Philadelphia County.
Okay.
It's in Montgomery
But what's
County.
the city?
It's a suburb.
So
Bryn Mawr,
Bryn Mawr,
Wayne, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
It's kind of like that argument.
That's what I was asking.
Who did I have that argument with? It was you. Yeah. You were like, you were like, Frisco's in Dallas. I'm like, so it's in the DFW, but it's not in the city limits of Dallas County, technically. It's in Frisco. It's not technically.
No, I know. That's what I was asking.
City.
I was saying, what's the Frisco of it?
Well, honestly, I didn't know, so I had to search it.
Okay. You were like, it's in Maine County. I was like, that didn't answer my question.
Yeah, no. It's a suburb of Philadelphia, Lower Marion, which is kind of where Kobe's from, Montgomery County, Radnor Township, Wayne, Bryn Mawr.
I'm glad we got that settled.
It's a regional joke. Like I said, those who know, know.
And I don't, which is why I asked. So, okay. Jeremy getting feisty here. I like it. Getting a little chroma action.
Ooh, daddy.
All right, let's do it. We're going to talk a little Lakers, then some Celtics after that, and we're actually going to wrap up with some college football, so stay tuned for that. Another 30, 45 minutes to go here on AGT.
Did a triple for one.
Hey, Laker Nation, subscribe to the Lakers Report if you want more videos. The trade deadline is just around the corner, less than a month away. Chase Sr.'s been cooking up with the latest trade rumors recently. We got some more to go. Hit that sub button. Crossed 40,000 subs recently. Let's keep it moving here on youtube.com/LakersTV. Any given Thursday by Chat Sports, Harrison Graham, Chase Sr. Let's talk some more trade buzz around Laker Nation, Chase. How about Gary Trent Jr.? Does that intrigue you at all?
Yeah, so this was somewhat of a surprising deal at the NBA trade deadline last year when he was sent from the Portland Trailblazers to the Toronto Raptors. And what was a surprising deal at the time? And I really liked it for Toronto because I think Gary Trent Jr. is a very good young player who's still developing. Now, this coming from Hoops Hype, Michael Scotto on the Lakers' interest in Gary Trent, as the Raptors are kind of in purgatory right now in the Eastern Conference, not real players to make a run at an NBA championship. He said this, quote, Los Angeles Lakers have been doing their due diligence around the league and expressed interest in Raptors guard Gary Trent Jr., according to league sources, one of several players they have checked in on. However, I don't see a deal happening between these teams at this time, since it would likely have to involve Talen Horton-Tucker and Kendrick Nunn from a salaries perspective. For me, I think Trent is nice. He's having a career year. The efficiency, as we're about to show you here in a little while, not necessarily there with the shooting numbers, but as an energetic player, as a young player, I think he'd fit well on this Lakers roster who, as we've talked about, they're pretty old and sluggish at times.
Yeah, they need some juice. I mean, that's the word that comes to mind. They just need some juice on this roster. I mean, they feel slow. They feel old. You and I downplayed that coming into this year, but it's kind of played out that way, and especially with Russell Westbrook being just not good. I mean, you guys can yell at me in the comments if you want. It's just a fact at this point. Like, he's just 2 for 14 the other night. Just bad. I mean, he's not
can't be losing against the Kings, man.
Yeah,
it just can't be doing it.
It's just not working, man. Gary Trent Jr. is a guy who is ascending as a player, whereas a lot of the guys on this roster are descending or have at least maxed out at this point in their careers. Like you mentioned, career year in a lot of aspects, 16.5 points a game. He's getting to play a lot in Toronto, which is valuable at over 34 minutes per game, which is good. But I think he would be a young, energetic piece that could start or come off the bench and I think give you some of that juice that I'm talking about here in the second half of the season.
16 points per game. He's shooting around 42% from the field, almost 37% from distance, though. That's really good because you look at the volume there to the right, 14.5 field goal attempts per game. Lakers need some shooting. They need some playmakers. They need some youth and exuberance.
And I think that efficiency goes up when you play with a guy like LeBron, AD when he gets back. Sure, Gary Trent's expensive. He got paid, and the Lakers are tight on cash. You'd have to get creative with moving some contracts here. But this is a short and a long-term play. I think he helps you now, and I think he helps you as you kind of transition into the future as well. I mean, you can't just keep going, 1 year at a time with a bunch of one-year contracts. This is a guy that, you kept THT, and maybe that was questionable, but maybe you pair him with him and a couple of other pieces as you kind of move into the future as well.
Yeah, we talk about him being a little bit expensive. He signed this deal during the free agency period over the summer, $16 million per year this year. Next year, it goes up to $17 million. The year after that, $18.5 million. But here's the thing. If you're getting a player who's giving you around 16 points per game and you're paying him $16 to $18 million per year, with today's NBA salary cap,
that's just how it is, man.
It really is just how it is, and it's actually pretty good value because a lot of players of this caliber are making $20, $25 million. I mean, Talen Horton-Tucker is getting 10 a year, and you have a player in Gary Trent who might give you more, who's making around 16 mil. So I actually don't think in the grand scheme of things, the number looks big, but for the numbers he's giving you, it's not all that much.
I mean, let me ask you this. Who would you rather have, Russell Westbrook or Gary Trent?
Gary Trent.
I mean,
that might be disrespectful to some, but
that's
just the truth for me.
It is what it is, man. Would you trade for Gary Trent Jr.? We'll ask you guys this question. Type T for trade, or you can type P for pass. If you can make it happen, I mean, I think this is kind of the guy we've been talking about. We just chop it up in the office all the time, Chase, like this team needs energy. They need some juice. I think Gary Trent fits that bill, both from an energetic standpoint and from an ability standpoint. I'm typing my T for trade. If you can find a trade for Gary Trent Jr., I would absolutely do it. Let us know what you guys think on this one down in the comments section. And look at what producer Jeremy Chuggs cooked up here with this double cam heater as we put this one up on screen.
Those jerseys, by the way, fresh.
Get him in the purple and gold, man.
Fresh.
Those are elite for Toronto.
Gold and black, elite color combos, and he's rocking some gold.
Hey, that
purple and gold.
That translates, man.
Lakers, it kind of translates.
Those are almost like the Black Mamba jerseys.
Yeah, that's true.
Very close.
That's true.
So we'll see. Maybe Gary Trent Jr. becomes a Laker. Maybe he needs some gear when he does get traded. And if you guys want some gear, we got some hats available, up to 40% off. Go to chatsports.com/Lakers hats. You got some of the curve bill, the flat bill style, the snapbacks, and look at this one. Jeremy just moaned when he saw this one. Chatsports.com/Lakers hats. Oh, the pine trees. You got this blackout one as well. This is an accent. Wrong tree. It doesn't matter. 40% off for some of these. Chatsports.com/Lakers hats. Oh, and then the championship ones from a couple of seasons ago. Go check them out. I meant to say, now I'm just all over the place. Click the link. But look, this title hat's only $5. I mean, come on. Live in the good. If you don't think they're winning it this year, just go get this hat, and you can relive the glory days. Chatsports.com/Lakers hats. Okay, so Gary Trent Jr. trade. As we keep moving here, let's move to Jeremy Grant, Chase, who could be on the trade block again. Is he a guy that LA could get?
We talked about him a lot here on the Lakers Report, and as evidenced by some of what the people have been saying in the comment section, I understand it's not always a litmus test that you want to take in the comment section because it can be a cesspool. A lot of Laker fans really like him, and you can easily see why. I mean, Jeremy Grant is a player who's currently out with a thumb injury right now, but has really grown into a very good all-around player who last year was in the race all year alongside Julius Randle for most improved player.
Yep.
And he came into the league out of Syracuse and kind of has done over time what a lot of other NBA players don't. A lot of other NBA players just rely on that athleticism to get them through, but they don't maximize their abilities or round out their arsenal. Grant's been able to do that, and because of that, has really exceeded all expectations, turning into a very good player. Now, The Athletic came up with a trade idea for Jeremy Grant to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. Here it is. Now, you'd have to get rid of Talen Horton-Tucker, who last year at the NBA trade deadline, Rob Pelinka did not trade away for Kyle Lowry. Continued to say, big mistake. But Pistons would get Talen Horton-Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, Kent Bazemore, and a 2027 first-round pick in exchange for Jeremy Grant. So would you do it? Get into the comment section right now. Type yes or no. Harrison, what would you do?
I might do it, and you might right that wrong from keeping THT. And look, I think they should have done it for Lowry. And, Lowry probably has more championship credibility, of course, than Jeremy Grant, but you may actually end up winning in the long run because Grant's more of a long-term piece than a guy like Kyle Lowry would be. This has intrigued me. You haven't even seen Nunn play this year for the Lakers, really. Bazemore, he's a throw-in. You don't need him. And the Lakers are in a spot where trading future first-round picks isn't a big deal. So, yeah, if you can get him and know that he can be healthy for you because he's been a little banged up, then, yeah, that's something I would consider. He's a guy that could give you 18 points as kind of your number 3, number 4 scorer on this offense, and he would improve your defense that has slipped this season.
Yeah, and the teams in on Jeremy Grant, according to The Athletic, it includes a couple of them. Los Angeles Lakers, New York Knicks, Washington Wizards, Damian Lillard, and all of these teams have marquee players in LeBron James, Julius Randle, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. But just because they have that star-level talent doesn't mean it's translated into wins this year. As we record this on Thursday, January 13th, all of these teams are at 500, just above 500, and in the Blazers' case, well below 500, so they're looking to make roster upgrades. And for Grant, we talked about that development earlier, first 6 years with Philadelphia, OKC, and the Nuggets, 9 points per game, 4 boards, 1 dime, and 7 field goal attempts per night. Those 7 field goal attempts per night over the last 2 years has now blossomed to 17 field goal attempts per night. And those points per game numbers have really gone up dramatically from 9 to about 21.5. So Jeremy Grant, you talk about the development. This is just offensively that we're showing you. And don't just get appealed by what he does on the offensive end of the floor. The impact that he can give you defensively is also enormous as well. And from the Lakers' standpoint, they need more athleticism, they need more quickness, they need some youth, they need better defense.
Shooting.
I kind of liked what the roster was this past offseason because I'm like, you're all in. You push your chips into the center of the table for this year and this year only. It hasn't really worked out, though, and that's been the problem.
Yeah, and it all started with Russ,
Yeah.
It all started there. So if you can, get a guy like Grant in here or a guy like Gary Trent in here, it kind of helps, solve that problem, I think. So we'll see what happens. The Lakers reportedly remain interested. Look for the Lakers to be active at the deadline because if they keep this roster as it's currently constructed, they're not a championship team, guys. I mean, look around the NBA. You're telling me this team could beat the Nets in a 7-game series, could beat the Bulls, could beat Phoenix, Golden State, Memphis,
Just
even
being real here.
even though they're inconsistent.
Memphis, yeah, Lakers don't match up well with Memphis.
No, I mean the Memphis they're so fast and athletic. I mean, I think they could run them out. Like I really do. So I think that would be a big matchup problem. And quite frankly, that could be the 4 or 5 matchup in the West. You may have to play them in the first round. So that's problematic with your current roster. So I fully expect the Lakers to be active at the deadline, and that's why you subscribe, because we'll have you guys covered. Does Grant make the Lakers a title contender? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. I think it helps.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it helps. Doesn't make him a title contender. I don't think it moves the needle all that much.
I think you'd have to move Russ, honestly.
Yeah.
I know I keep coming back to that, but you move that contract somehow, fill out that $40 million with a couple other players, then maybe you're back in the mix. Appreciate Lakers fans for tuning in. 1 for yes, 2 for no. We'll talk about the Celtics momentarily. We also got a super chat from Tom Downey's burner account. We'll get to that momentarily. Someone says Tom Downey burner account. Interesting. Is Robert Bruce, you've been here before. You know about Tom Downey's burner account.
Oh yeah.
This is an OG here. Let's go ahead and get to it here. Jeremy, we got even Rick from Pawn Stars would pass on Russ. Hey, we got Russell Westbrook. He makes $40 million. I'll give you 20 cents for him. You ever watch that show back in the day?
Oh, yeah. That's a good show.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, this is a proven signed Jimi Hendrix guitar. It's worth $700,000. I'll give you $10,000 for it. I guess I'll take it. It's classic. It's classic stuff. Kareem says 1. Peter says 2. Olaf says 2. Yeah, man, the Lakers got to figure something out and something quick between now and the trade deadline if they're still trying to win a championship this year. Let's shift from the Lakers to one of their longtime rivals, the Boston Celtics. We'll talk about the green and gold now as we transition here. Trade deadline continue to close in, so let's see what the Celtics are up to. So stay tuned for that. What's up, Celtics fans? Subscribe to Boston Celtics Today for trade coverage between now and the deadline on February 10th. More news, rumors. Let's get to 8,000 subs as soon as possible. The more we can grow here, the more videos Chase and I can do, so hit that big red button. All right, any given Thursday, he's Chase, I'm Harrison. Trade rumors heating up, Chase, as the Celtics continue to kind of be 1 step forward, 2 steps back. What's the latest around Boston?
Yeah, I mean, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have been balling out the last couple of games, and this is kind of what Celtics fans have been hoping for a little while, but still not sure if that roster is good enough to make a deep run in the NBA playoffs. That's why some of these trade rumors are starting to come to the surface leading up to that February 10th NBA trade deadline. So the Celtics rumors roundup right now, according to multiple reports out there, Boston may be looking into a reunion with Jeff Green. Aaron Nesmith and Dennis Schroeder could be on the table in trade discussions. Jalen Smith, the second-year big man out of Maryland, who wasn't good last year, has taken some steps forward this year, would fulfill a need in that front court for the Celtics from the Phoenix Suns, also a trade possibility. Now, for Jeff Green, familiar face, right, Harrison? I mean, he was with the Celtics, played under Brad Stevens with Boston from 2010, 2011 to 2014, 2015. And if you remember, he had missed a year back then because he had to undergo that really serious heart issue that he was able to come back from, and he's went on to have a very, very successful NBA career. And while he was with Boston, he's a pretty solid player. As kind of a 3-and-D guy before that became a popular term, 14.5 points per game. He shot around 44% from the floor, 34% from distance. He's right now with the Denver Nuggets, and in minimal time as a part-time starter and bench player, he's putting up pretty good numbers as well. So Jeff Green having a pretty good year, 10 points per game. You know, he's shooting around 50% from the floor, almost 32% from 3, and you like what you see from this type of player, and he's not going to cost you that much. Pretty good veteran coming off the bench as well.
And let me add this about Jeff Green. I thought the Nets made a mistake not bringing him back. I mean, when Kyrie got banged up, when Harden was banged up in the playoffs last year, he was kind of KD's sidekick in the playoffs and had a couple of huge games. I can't remember who it was against. He dropped like 30 against somebody in the playoffs last year. And you're like, Jeff Green, and he like continues to play well deep into his career. And you say the Celtics are familiar. Well, so are several other teams. But everywhere he plays, Chase, he is a key role player. He's doing it for Denver this year. He did it for Brooklyn last year. And I think if you get him into Boston, you know what he is. And the beauty of Jeff Green, he knows exactly who he is as a player. He's a good mid-range guy that can get to the rim as well. He can occasionally knock down a three-point shot, and he's a versatile defender that can play multiple positions.
He's played in a lot of big games, too,
Yes.
throughout his entire career. And I understand he's played for a lot of NBA teams. Doesn't mean that he's a scrub. He's just had opportunities with a lot of NBA teams. And last year with Brooklyn, you kind of alluded to this. I mean, he made a couple of really big shots and was thrust into a major role once Kyrie Irving went down and James Harden went out. So you take a look at these stats once more. Good job by producer Jeremy for kind of changing this on the fly. 10 points per game this year, 50% from the deck, 32% from distance. Field goal attempts per game at only 7. So he's shooting 50% on only 7 attempts.
He's maximizing
his opportunities as kind of a mid-range guy who can knock down that corner triple.
Yeah, and listen, again, it's a cliche, he's the ultimate glue guy. I mean, he's PJ Tucker with more offense and a little less defense. I mean, I'm not saying they're the right guy, but everywhere those two guys are, their teams win. I mean, that's just how it goes. So I think if you could bring him to Boston, I'm not saying it makes you a contender, but I think it helps. It gets you depth. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Do you want a reunion with Jeff Green? Boston fans, stand up. Type R for reunion. Type P for pass. I think for the right price, I would do it. I mean, could you get him for a second-round pick? I mean, I'd throw Nesmith for Jeff Green. I mean, you say he could be on the table. Aaron Nesmith is giving you nothing. As a second-year player now. So let us know what you guys think on that one. And Celtics fans, if you want to make some money betting on NBA games, also go bet on the playoffs. The Patriots got a big game coming up with the Buffalo Bills on Wild Card Weekend. Go check that out. You can check out those betting odds and several other bets as well. Chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code CHAT125. That's going to get you a 125% deposit bonus when you sign up. So go check that out. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code CHAT125. All right, let's shift now to Aaron Nesmith and Dennis Schroeder. What's the latest here? Could they get dealt?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Dennis Schroeder, you can kind of look at this as in a couple of ways, right? He signed that one-year deal for $5.9 million, and so far it's been wonderful for Boston. So that can either be valuable for some teams who are cap-strapped, valuable for the Celtics because of what they're getting back, but also he's not under contract for a long while, only one-year deal. So because he's with Boston and playing well, can they afford him on the price tag that he's going to demand in NBA free agency next year? Probably not. That's why he's being involved in some of these NBA trade discussions. This according to Hoops Hype on Schroeder and Nesmith. Celtics making Schroeder available, making a ton of sense since they'll have limitations re-signing him this offseason, as I just talked about. The possibility that Nesmith might be available has to be a little bit concerning. He has not progressed from last year and doesn't have a firm role in the rotation. He hasn't played since returning from health and safety protocol, so maybe he's another guy the Celtics look to move to to move below that luxury tax. And for Dennis Schroeder, we talk about that progression and him just being better than he was last year, him being kind of a steal in free agency for that price tag. 16 points per game for a guy who's only making 5.9. We talked about it here when they broke the news several months ago. It's been good for Boston.
Yeah, I mean, listen, those still probably aren't numbers worthy of $21 million a year, which is what he was offered at one point. But
he was never worth that, though.
No, exactly. I mean, this has got to be one of the best bargain signings of free agency last year. I mean, you're getting 16 and 5 consistently per night for a guy that's making less than $6 million in today's NBA. I mean, how many guys making $6 million or less are averaging more points in the NBA? I'd love to look that up. It can't be many. I mean, maybe guys on their rookie contracts are making more. There's certainly a few of those guys. But for veteran players, guys who have played well for a long time, to get that production at that price tag, that is why teams are going to come calling for Dennis Schroeder, because teams that are chasing a championship, and if Boston doesn't think they can get there this year, maybe you do ship him out, because he might cost $13, $14, $15 million in free agency this offseason. And if you're Boston, you probably don't want to pay that much for him. So maybe trading him now does make some sense.
Yeah. So what would you do with Schroeder? Type D for give him the dollars. Type V for trade him, get some value back. I'm kind of leaning get some value back. And I think you could get a pretty solid player.
Unless you think that you can win pretty big this year, maybe not a championship, but a series or two, I would trade him. See if I can get a young piece or a first-round pick and say, hey, Dennis, kudos to balling out. We helped you reset your career after the Lakers contract meltdown. Go ball out on a playoff team and get the bag in the offseason. I mean, it's a win-win for both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, Celtics kicking the tires on Jalen Smith, our next trade rumor for Boston coming up. And a lot of people didn't realize and probably have forgotten that Jalen Smith out of Maryland last year was a top 10 pick of the Phoenix Suns, but he was really hidden behind the shadows of DeAndre Ayton last year, who really went on to have the best year of his career. This year, though, it's been really, really good. Points per game at 7.5, rebounds per game at 5.3, blocks per game at 0.5, but again, minimal minutes per night. But given the minutes that he's getting, he's certainly taken advantage of that. Field goal percentage at nearly 50. And for a Celtics team that I feel like we're just like rinsing and repeating here, Harrison. We were saying this last year around this time when I came to Chat Sports, like you need a better big man.
Yeah.
Now you have Robert Williams, who the Time Lord has had a good year, given that contract. He's good. But in terms of depth pieces, do you want Jalen Smith over a guy like Enes Freedom? He gives you a little bit more athletic explosion.
Yeah.
And you're also getting a player who might have some upside down the road, still has a couple of years left on that rookie contract. So this is kind of interesting for me, considering how Jalen Smith has played this season.
Robert Williams is the only big on your roster that you could argue is still improving.
Yeah.
Al Horford, he's been solid this year, but he's not an improving player. Enes Freedom, we know what he is at this point. He's a 15 minutes off the bench guy that can score at times in bunches, but that's it. He's bad defensively. He's getting older. That's kind of it, man. Like, you don't have a ton of guys there, moving forward with the needle pointing up. Whereas if you got Jalen Smith with Robert Williams, sure, either of those guys world beaters? No, but you got two young, energetic guys that can help build this roster moving forward. So grade Jalen Smith as a player. You're playing 2K at the crib. You're going through your fantasy draft to build your roster. You're getting to the 6th, 7th round. Oh, there's Jalen Smith at a 74 overall. Let us know, what's his 2K scale grade. Scale it from 1 to 100. What would you grade him? Low, mid-70s, young player?
I was going to say like 70 to 75 would be my grade for him.
With the arrow pointing up, though.
Yes.
So.
Last year, concerns about him being a bust. This year, okay, I kind of like the potential.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, boys.
In the right direction.
Hold on tight. We're switching it up. College football.
Yes, baby. This year's over.
Yeah.
Kind of sad.
Yeah, no, it is. How about Georgia, man?
Good for
Shout
them.
out to Georgia. Finally getting over that Alabama hump.
They slayed their demons.
Yep.
You love to see it.
They did.
You love to see it. And you know what I enjoyed seeing? Nick Saban was genuinely happy for Kirby Smart.
He was.
He smiled bigger after losing a national title than after any that he has won.
Yep.
I mean, so that's cool to see. Kirby Smart, I think now you can put him in that conversation for the truly elite coaches in college football. You guys shout out your favorite college teams, but it's sad when it ends, but hey, it'll be here before you know it. You got spring football.
Oh, spring football.
The transfer portal's still hot, by the way.
Transfer portal.
Caleb Williams.
Yep.
We'll still have some videos here and there.
USC, book it.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's got to happen.
Caleb Clemens asking, what value does Kevin Knox have? He was actually traded today in that Cam Reddish deal to the Atlanta Hawks. So helped you get Cam Reddish if you're the Knicks.
It's interesting. He was, 2 years ago, he was decent, and then he was just awful.
Yeah, and then he got out of the rotation for Tibbs.
Weird.
You don't play defense, you ain't playing for Tibbs.
Now, something somebody said in the chat during that Celtics cut, which might be an interesting fit. Somebody was saying trade for Fred VanVleet. What do y'all think about that?
I like Fred VanVleet.
Man, he's been on a heater recently, too.
Yep.
He's been playing well.
Making a lot of money, but I really
Makes a
like
lot
him.
of money. Smart intruder for VanVleet straight up. Who says no?
Yeah.
We're cooking that into Celtics on a video soon. I just came up with just get us to 8. Get us to 8. Duke from John. All right. Let's knock this out, and then let's wrap this thing up because it's about that time.
Yes,
so
sir.
college football, here's what we're doing. Way too early, top 25 after the national championship occurred earlier this week. So stay tuned for that as Chase and I look ahead to 2022. He's Chase Sr. I'm Harrison Graham. Any given Thursday by Chat Sports. We go live every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. We're wrapping up today's show with a little college football talk. The 2021 season is in the books as the Georgia Bulldogs slayed their demons and beat the Alabama Crimson Tide 33-18 in a rematch in the national championship game. Great story for Kirby Smart. Great story for Stetson Bennett, the former walk-on quarterback who was able to get it done there. Bama loses in the title game, but Chase, we all know that they're going to be back. This was a better game than the score would indicate. A little boring at times, but at least we got a pretty decent national title game.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia goes on to win 33-18, but a lot of those points piled on late, especially that epic pick six in which Kirby Smart showed the ups, man. He was telling the defender to go down, but he got up really high there.
That's adrenaline.
So shout out to him and that athleticism, and shout out to adrenaline. Hopefully we can all feel that as we get a little bit older. But honestly, good for Georgia. They slayed their demons. They knocked down the cobwebs in the closet that existed for a long, long time going up against Alabama. They've had so many playoff shortcomings over time and so many heartbreaking losses, whether it be in national championship games or in the SEC championship game. I thought Alabama was going to win. I took them on the money line. I like the value there, but I'm glad Georgia won because it's great for college football.
And I think it's interesting heading into the offseason and then before next season. Who should be number one heading into 2022? Get your votes in. We'll have our way too early top 25 rankings coming up in just a minute, but we'll make this the pin comment on today's video. Who should be number one entering the 2022 college football season? Go ahead and get your votes in. Way too early, top 25 coming at you. USC. So I kind of threw them in there as a, big name program. You got Lincoln Riley out, but really, Chase, the main reason I put them in there, the ultimate wild card.
Yep.
Caleb Williams, and depending on when you're watching this, maybe he's made a decision. The former Oklahoma quarterback, Lincoln Riley's prized recruit in Norman from just a year ago, who obviously balled out as a freshman. A lot of people think he'll end up at Southern Cal. If he ends up there, they might become favorites in the Pac-12.
No question about it. That's really the big domino to fall, not just for USC, but really the entire college football landscape. Now, give Lincoln Riley a couple of recruiting classes to really bring USC back to that top 5 prominence.
Yep.
But just because of his offensive mind alone, just because of his fingerprints being on the offensive side of the ball and that program, expect USC to compete for the Pac-12 in a conference that's wide open after Mario Cristobal leaves for Oregon. You're not really sure what UCLA is going to be. A little bit sketched out with their quarterback situation. USC in the top 25, book it, especially if they get Caleb.
Caleb Williams can help fast-track a rebuild.
Yes,
he really
can. Transfer portal as well.
You know who could use Caleb Williams? Iowa. 24. Look, to win 10 games, nice job by Kirk Ferentz, but until they have a quarterback, I refuse to take them seriously. 23, the Kentucky Wildcats. Mark Stoops continuing to do a great job there. Hey, they're becoming a football school, man, so good for them. We got them at 23. Houston at 22. I think this could potentially, Chase, be the top group of 5 team heading into next year. Dana Holgorsen had Houston playing really well this year. Clayton Tune, their quarterback, is back. And with Cincinnati losing Desmond Ridder and some NFL players on defense, maybe the Cougars are the team coming out of the group of 5.
Yeah, look, and they were right there all year with Cincinnati in the American Athletic Conference. And now, do they have the better team going into next year than Cincinnati?
Maybe.
Potentially.
21, how about South Carolina? And bit of a projection here, but if Spencer Rattler can get his confidence back, you team him back with the former coach he knew in Norman and Shane Beamer. He had his buddy Austin Stogner, I believe, is joining him as well at South Carolina. And the Gamecocks played pretty well last year, considering they played like 4 quarterbacks, including a grad assistant.
Yeah.
So
everybody thought they were going to be bottom of the SEC.
7-6,
wins,
man.
For them to go 7-6,
and they beat North Carolina in the bowl game, who was a preseason top 10 team. So we'll see what happens there. If you love college football, you got to subscribe. The best coverage on YouTube. I think in the months of November and December, no one had better college football videos than we do. I truly believe that. And we're trying to make this a year-long college channel. If we continue to get subs from these college football videos, trust me, Chase and I will find ways to do videos for you guys throughout the offseason. So go ahead and subscribe, and hey, it'll be fall before you know it. Top 20, Ole Miss at 20. Could they sweep into the Caleb Williams sweepstakes? That would be clutch. They got my boy Zach Evans from TCU, former 5-star running back. Question here is quarterback.
Quarterback. That's really what it comes down to. You lose Matt Corral to the NFL level, and without him, in the Sugar Bowl?
Yes.
They just weren't the same team. So that's a big question, but I have trust in Lane Kiffin. He can figure it out.
At number 19, North Carolina State quietly had a really nice year. Dave Dorn doing a good job there. Could be an ACC dark horse. Arkansas at number 18. If KJ Jefferson continues to progress like he did in the second half of the year, Chase, you and I were extremely impressed with him. I mean, think about the Georgia game where he basically couldn't complete a pass.
They couldn't get past midfield.
And then Bama late in the year where he's going toe-for-toe with Bryce Young almost. You continue to build off that if you're Arkansas. You may have a sleeper Heisman candidate potentially. Yeah. Maybe that's a bit of a reach, but Sam Pittman doing a great job there. Tough SEC West, we know that, but Arkansas, 9-win season, I think they're going to be in the top 20. Michigan State at number 17. Peyton Thorne, their quarterback, got better and better. You obviously lose Kenneth Walker, but I like what Mel Tucker's doing there with that culture. I think they could be a team to watch out for in the Big Ten. And then how about Cincinnati? Where do they fit into all this, Chase? You lose Desmond Ridder. I think Luke Fickell will be back there for another year. I mean, where else is he going to go? Maybe if Harbaugh leaves Michigan, that changes things. But as long as Fickell's there, top 15, top 20, I mean.
Yeah, this late in the cycle, I don't envision him leaving, nor do I see why he would. And just on coaching alone, player development, Cincinnati has to be a player.
And if he wants to stay, they're a year away from being a Power 5 program because they're going into the Big 12. Who's going to be a dark horse team next year? I think there's some interesting ones to watch out for that we just mentioned. I think South Carolina could fit that bill. I mean, you think about Georgia losing some pieces. Could they be a sneaky SEC East contender? Still a talent gap between them and Georgia, but I think it's possible if Rattler plays well, they at least leapfrog Florida in the SEC East. You got a dark horse? Penn State
horse team next year.
We didn't even have him on our top 25 here.
Yeah, they have to be. Just because of recruiting alone, one of the top recruiting classes in the country. Have to figure out quarterback, though. I wouldn't move forward with Sean Clifford. I think you got to go with one of the young guys.
Could USC with Caleb Williams be a sneaky playoff team just because the Pac-12 isn't great?
Just because of the Pac-12. Win the Pac-12, Lincoln Riley effect. Let's say you lose one game, USC will be in the mix.
We'll see. BYU, maybe they're a dark horse. Maybe they're the team that, is considered a group of 5 program that could run the table. We'll see what happens. Kalani Sitake, one of the better coaches in the country. Good for BYU, able to retain him. At number 14, Dave Clawson in Wake Forest coming off a great year. Sam Hartman is back for another season at quarterback.
That's big for them.
That's big. He had a monster season, clearly the best in school history at that position. How about Wisconsin? Okay, so 13. This feels like they could win the Big Ten West, or they're like 7-5 again. I don't know how it's going to go. Does Graham Mertz kind of build off a strong second half of the season, or is he the guy we saw early in the year?
Why can't he carry this momentum
Former
on?
five-star.
Earlier on in the year, we're like, man, he just doesn't look good. But for him to figure it out, it's a really good sign as a former highly touted recruit to figure it out. Hopefully he just has that confidence going. I think that's the biggest thing for him was the lack of confidence.
And we know they'll be able to run the football, play defense. I'm drawing a blank, but their running back literally was 17 years old this year, and he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
At number 12, Oklahoma. I don't know what to really do with them. It looks like Caleb Williams is going to be gone, so Dylan Gabriel is going to start, and he can certainly lead them to a Big 12 championship, but this kind of feels like a transition year for Oklahoma. I would not be shocked at all if they did not win the Big 12 for a second season in a row.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they have everything there, and I think Brent Venables is going to be able to do a good job to bring in Jeff Lebby as OC. That's going to really help them offensively on top of Venables being the defensive mind. And defensive mind in the Big 12, I kind of like the pivot there for Oklahoma.
Oregon at number 11. You move on from Anthony Brown. I think you could actually end up upgrading there, to be honest. The second half of the year, he was not good at all. We'll see what I'm excited to see what Dan Lanning does with that program. Kind of similar, right? They go defense now.
Actually coming off the Natty.
I mean, you would think that would help in recruiting for the 2023 class, so should be fascinating. BetUS is the place to go bet on some NFL playoff games for you football fans. College football's done, but you can still go bet on the NFL playoffs. Chatsports.com/bet. Use our promo code CHAT125. That's going to get you a 125% deposit bonus. Go bet on the NFL playoffs. All right, top 10. Baylor, man. Dave Aranda, They're certainly losing some guys. They had a lot of seniors on that team that got an extra year due to COVID. But if they can, figure out, is Bohannon the quarterback or is it the kid that played in the Big 12 title game that played pretty well?
Yeah.
Figure that out. The defense is going to be strong, and Big 12 is wide open once again.
So wide open. And Aranda, what a job he's done taking over for Matt Rule. Matt Rule, man, grass ain't always greener on the other side. I think he's going to be able to get the Panthers back, but point here being Aranda's temperament, his leadership, his confidence, his swagger, his coaching ability, top notch.
Oklahoma State, stay on topic here. You look at Mike Gundy, the consistency there. He's still, in the big games, he doesn't win a ton of them, but they're going to be in the mix once again in the Big 12. Spencer Sanders back for another year at quarterback. How about Clemson? I mean, look. Worst year they've had in about a decade. They still win 10 games.
10 games, man.
If it's DJU, Cade Klubnik, I don't really care. If the quarterback gets back to playing at a high level at Clemson, they're going to run through the ACC, I think.
It's
right?
crazy that in a down year, Dabo still finds a way to win 10 games. And it was ugly early. But if you remember, week 1, it was a knock 'em out, drag 'em out type of matchup against Georgia. And it was a close game.
10-3.
Georgia goes on to win the national championship game. So while it didn't look pretty at times for Clemson, mostly because of what they did or didn't do offensively, still won 10.
Yeah, if they can get the quarterback situation figured out, they should be fine. Number 7, Michigan. Obviously the big talking point. Well, 2 big talking points. Jim Harbaugh, is he going to be there? And quarterback, is it going to be Cade McNamara, J.J. McCarthy? I'm giving McCarthy a real opportunity if I'm Michigan in spring ball into summer camp to earn that starting job. I think the upside is there. I think we saw against Georgia that, McNamara's limitations really, really hurt you in those big-time matchups. And also, go check out Bossman Yode's youtube.com/Michigan TV. He'll have you guys covered all offseason long with the Michigan Wolverines, the latest going on over there. All right, number 6, Notre Dame. Fascinated to see what happens with this program under this new coaching regime.
Yeah, me too. And you kind of got a glimpse of it in that bowl game, the Fiesta Bowl, correct?
And look, I said
State.
Gundy doesn't win the big ones. That was
He
a big
did.
one.
He
That's
did.
a big win
How
for
about-
Oklahoma State.
How about Notre Dame being like 0-6 in their last 6 bowl games or something along those lines?
I think they've
What
lost
is it?
10. They've lost 10 New Year's Six/BCS games in a row.
That's brutal.
Got to turn that
and
around.
Marcus Freeman, defensive guy, allowed Oklahoma State to really storm back after getting that early lead.
Yeah, so we'll see what the Fighting Irish look like next year. Top 5 coming up. Interesting question here. Will Clemson be a college football playoff contender next year? Yes or no?
In the ACC?
Yeah, is Wake going to be – they beat Wake late in the year, didn't they? They did.
Yeah.
And Clemson should be better this year.
Yep.
So, it's still – the Clemson still runs the ACC. I don't care what happened in 2021. Get your votes in, yes or no. Top 5, Utah. Dude,
Juicy. Kyle Whittingham.
I wish Utah and USC were on opposite halves in the Pac-12 because I think if Caleb Williams goes to USC, that's a 2-team conference next year. Maybe Oregon surprises, but I think it's kind of a transition year. Cam Rising at quarterback played really well. They're physical. They run the football. We know they play defense. I think the Utes are going to be a force to be reckoned with, as are Texas A&M. Listen, they still got to prove it in the SEC, but you know what? When you bring in the talent that they have, there's no reason why they can't win 10 or 11 games.
No reason why. And it's going to come down to another matchup against Alabama. And it's going to come down to some of the tough matchups in that SEC. The roster is there. The coach is there.
Is the
talent
quarterback.
is at the disposal. Heisman.
Getting reps. I think both those guys could be high. This could be a Mac Jones, Devontae Smith situation where both are finalists. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great player. Hopefully Julian Fleming takes that step. Ohio State's offense will probably be the best in the country next year, realistically, but maybe Bryce Young and Alabama have something to say about that. We gave Bama the slight edge as our way to early preseason number 1. You've got the Heisman finalist, Bryce Young. He's going to be, pretty
Insane.
Unstoppable next year.
And
right?
it's funny, I think Bill O'Brien's going to go to the NFL level. He's going to end up getting one of these head coaching jobs potentially. No problem for Nick Saban.
He'll find
it's a
somebody.
revolving door at the coordinator spots, and he finds some magician to come in.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. So who's going to win the Natty next year? Who's going to do it? Who is going to win the national championship? I might go Ohio State, man. I think C.J.
That
Stroud
defense, right?
and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think the addition of Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator is going to make a big impact. I mean, you look at what he did with Oklahoma State. Pretty phenomenal. Who's going to win it all? Let us know in the comments. All right. We're about to sign this puppy off.
Yep.
Oh. Well, you know.
Coach Dreadhead, what's good, man?
No.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's sign this puppy off.
The cut daddies have it under control, Jeremy. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I see an Ohio State in there, Penn State, Natty bound. I don't think this is going to be the year for them. Chase, it was fun as always. We did a little SFA in today. Producer Jeremy Chugg, shout out to his fine work and everybody behind the scenes as well. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you soon here